Let's look at the next problem. Shavona works or earns $8 per hour and works a 40-hour work week. So she works 40 hours in a week and earns $8 per 1 hour. So every hour she works, she earns $8. At the end of the week, she cashes her paycheck and then buys 2 tickets to a concert. Tickets cost $60 each. How much does she have left? So first, let's find out how much does she earn. How much does she earn? $8 per 1 hour. So for every 1 hour. And how many hours does she work? She works 40 hours. So let's find out how much money she makes in 1 week. So that would be $8 every hour, 40 hours. So it's 8 plus 8 plus 8, 40 times. So it's really multiplication of 8 and 40. So that's the total money that she makes. 8 fours are 32 and 10. So 8 zeros are 0, 8 fours are 32. And that's the total amount of money that she makes. Another way of thinking about this is, and this is something that you will come across in a math class that you'll do in future, $8 per is always divided by 1 hour. $8 per 1 hour times 40 hours. So if you see a factor in the numerator common with a factor in the denominator, we can cancel out the factors and we are left with 8 times $40, and that is the same as $320. Now either way, the important thing to notice is that there is multiplication involved in calculating the total amount of money that she makes. So this is how much does she make. Now let's see how much does she spend. And she spends on 2 tickets and each ticket costs $60. So you go 60 plus 60. 2 tickets, so it's a sum of 60 plus 60, $120. Now remember that repeated addition of the same number, we've repeatedly multiplied twice, so it's the same thing as 2 times $60, which is $120. Either way, she spends $120. Now what's left over after the spending? So she makes $320, from which you're going to take away, which means subtract $120. And we're left with 2 minus 2, which is 0, $200. So she makes $320. She spends $120, which means you have to subtract to find the remaining. So we have multiplication. We multiplied in the first 2 steps, and then of course what's left over we subtract to get what's left over. And what's left over is $200. So show your steps clearly, show exactly what you're thinking, what information is given in the problem, and what kind of operations you're using. Write it down neatly. So even if your final answer is wrong, for example in an exam, you still get partial credit for the multiple steps that you presented in your solution. So a farmer sells eggs in containers holding a dozen. A dozen is 12 eggs. If he has 4,257 eggs, how many containers will he need? So how many containers will he need? Let's say to pack the eggs. First you need to pack the eggs, and then of course the next step is to sell it. So let's just fix this last sentence to how many containers will he need to pack the eggs. So each container can only take 12 eggs, right? So you have to divide 4,257 into groups of 12. The minute I use the word divide it into groups of 12, and that's how you count the total number of containers, we are talking about dividing 4,257 by 12, which means you're going to divide it into little piles of 12 eggs, and each of these piles of eggs will go into containers that hold a dozen. So 12 goes into 4 0 times, subtract to get a 4, bring the 2 down. Again, ask yourself, how many times does 12 go into 42? It goes a maximum of 3 times because that's 36. 12 fours are 48, which is over 42. So 12 times 3 is 36 is the maximum number of times it goes. Now we subtract to get a 6. Bring the 5 down. 12 times 5 is 60. 12 sixes are 72, which is too much. 12 fours are 48, which is too less. So 12 fives are 60 is the maximum number of times that 12 goes into 65. Bring the 7 down. 12 fives are 60. So 12 fours are 48. Subtract, and then we get 17 minus 8, which is 9. So what we have is, if we divide 4,257 by 12, we get 354 piles that contain 12 eggs each. But then we don't have the 355th pile because we have only 9 eggs in the 355th pile. So this is called the remainder. So in order to pack the eggs, we need 354 containers that will all contain a dozen, complete dozen, 12 eggs. Plus we need one more container to pack the 9 eggs. So we need a total of 355 containers to pack the eggs. Even though the last container contains only 9 eggs. But if I say he can only sell in dozens, how many containers can he sell? Then the answer would be 354, because he cannot sell the 355th container because it contains only 9 eggs. So think carefully when you're dividing. Present your answer carefully. If it's for packing, you're kind of rounding up because you need another container for the remainder of the 9 eggs. They don't form a dozen, but you still have to pack them in a container that carries a dozen. But if you have to sell eggs in dozens, obviously you cannot sell this one, which contains 9 eggs only. So you can only sell 354 dozens or containers.